Natsu is an all-powerful fire-breathing wizard who lives in a country where magic is prominent everywhere and large-scale magic battles take place on a regular basis. He is the member of a famed wizards guild known as the Fairy Tail. He's somewhat of a hotshot because fire magic is one of the rarest magic abilities anyone can have, and Natsu is trained by a real-life dragon named Emil ever since he was young. Even in this world, dragons are very rare, which makes Natsu's abilities even more shocking. He has set out on a journey to meet with Emil once again, as he has some questions only he can answer. He boards a train to go to a famous port city, where he was tipped off that a dragonborn who uses fire magic is coming. Riding trains causes him a bunch of motion sickness, but alongside his trusty magical companion named Happy, he is able to complete the journey and wanders around the town to find Emil. Do you not like the idea of having your activities tracked by supers like Natsu online? Well, Surfshark VPN, the sponsor of this video, has got you covered. Their VPN protects your data while you're connected to the internet with state-of-the-art encryption and a strict no-log policy, ensuring that your activates and location are a secret from anyone who tries to snoop on you. This protection extends to public Wi-Fi as well, so you can use the internet and even access net banking without a worry while working in your favorite cafe or while traveling. Say goodbye to worrying about your sensitive data falling into the wrong hands, because whether it's streaming, browsing, gaming, or even online shopping, Surfshark VPN has got your back, ensuring you and your waifu's online safety and anonymity. That's not all. Surfshark VPN lets you access geo-restricted websites and content, including anime you're dying to watch but are blocked on Crunchyroll in your region, by letting you easily change your IP address within an instant to locations where they're available. No more FOMO. If you want even more protection surfing the rough waters of the internet, Surfshark also has an antivirus that offers constant protection in the background so that you're safe from supervillain viruses and blocks unauthorized access to your camera, so you can finally get rid of that duct tape. You can use our code ANYMAN to avail an exclusive discount, plus 3 months for free. He roams around Hungary when he suddenly spots a bunch of girls grouped around someone calling him the Fire Wizard, which excites him as he thinks it is Emil himself. However, to his surprise and disappointment, he spots just a normal man who thinks he is very cool, flexing his magic towards these muggle girls. He, however, isn't impressed and simply walks away, saying that the guy is nothing out of the ordinary, which enrages these girls who have a clove of garlic in their head instead of a brain to aimlessly fangirl for such idiots. This show definitely predicted how people are going to be in the future fangirling for boy bands. Anyways, the girls end up attacking and beating the crap out of Natsu, but the guy ends up stopping them and even gives Natsu an autograph board, which he says he doesn't need, making the girls angry again, and they beat him up once more. The guy simply tells them that he is hosting a party at his cruise and expects all of the girls to be there before he pieces out. One of the girls introduces herself as Lucy and thanks him for breaking the charm. She takes them to a nearby restaurant where both Natsu and Happy eat like they are more starved than the children of Africa, while Lucy explains that the scumbag was using a special magic item which charms the girls around, and he used it to get famous. It was thanks to Natsu that she ended up snapping back to reality, and to thank him, he offers him all the food for free. She tells him that she is a wizard herself and wants to join one of the guilds soon, as any wizard who doesn't belong to any guild isn't considered a full-fledged wizard. She mentions to him that she really wants to join the famed Guild of Fairy Tail, but has no idea how to get in, while Natsu is busy shoving things down his throat, just like your mother on OnlyFans. She decides that she has talked enough and gets up after paying the bill and leaves the restaurant. She sits down on a bench in a park, reading a magic magazine, when suddenly, the scumbag from earlier comes out of the bushes like an absolute creep and tells her that he's here to personally invite her to the boat party. She, however, refuses and tells him that she isn't as dumb as the other girls and will not be hypnotized by the charm magic, as she is aware of it now. The wizard claims that it was just a stunt to feel more loved and tells her that he's an honest man, and then immediately lies about being the member of Fairy Tail. Her mouth starts watering immediately as he tells her that he can put a good word for her, only if she attends his party, and she agrees like a stupid thought. Later that evening, both Natsu and Happy watch the shit cruise off in the distance, and just watching it makes Natsu sick again. Meanwhile, Lucy is on the cruise itself and talking to the scumbag, while he tries to use magic to make her unconscious. Even my uncle knows this magic. He calls it the roofies. Lucy immediately gets up and tells him to back off, but looks around to see that all of the girls have fallen asleep, and a bunch of fat fatties emerge from their disgusting lairs to grab them and probably sell them off to slavery or something. Lucy immediately gets her magic keys out, but is stopped midway by the scumbag, who tosses them in the sea. She becomes heartbroken, still under the impression that this scumbag is a member of Fairy Tail, and screams that she doesn't want to be the member of such a scummy guild, when suddenly the roof breaks in and from among the smoke, Natsu emerges, but before he could do anything, he starts feeling seasick and falls over. Happy, who is flying above him, quickly grabs her with his tail and flies away into the night sky, while the scumbag uses his magic to try and stop them. Happy is able to dodge the attacks, but his magic transformation runs out and his wings disappear, making both of them fall into the deep waters, while the crewmates on the ship beat the crap out of Natsu. Lucy quickly swims down in the sea and finds out her fallen keys, bringing them up to the surface before using one of the water keys to summon the sea spirit, who turns out to be a proper bitch and tells Lucy that if she ever drops the keys again, she will murder her entire family. Lucy quickly tells her to swipe the entire ship off to the shore, and the sea bitch creates such a massive wave that alongside the ship, even Happy and Lucy are swept ashore. The sea bitch tells Lucy not to call her for the next few weeks as she's going on a trip with her boyfriend and disappears. Finally on the shore, Natsu emerges from the shipwreck and orders the scumbag to tell the truth about him being from Fairy Tail, but the scumbag simply sends 2 of his men up to him, who he simply bitch slaps away, before asking him once more to come clean as Natsu is himself from Fairy Tail and he has never seen this scumbag before. Lucy is shocked at this revelation as Happy tells him that the scumbag was the member of a small guild who used to traffic illegal magic items but was kicked out for stealing from them. The scumbag uses one of his magic items to create a fire typhoon and aims it at Natsu. He doesn't know that Natsu is one of the few people who actually are real fire wizards, and he ends up literally deep-throating the entire fire magic and starts walking towards the scumbag once again. This time, he goes on the offensive and uses his fiery breath to destroy their entire careers, and after the dust is settled, only the scumbag was able to survive by using his magic to dodge away. Natsu shouts that he won't let some scum like him ruin the name of his guild and runs towards him, dodging his attacks before jumping in the air and punching him with his fiery fists. The scumbag again takes to the skies and angrily uses a massive attack on him, which he dodges, but the scum follows it up and throws a big ball of magic at Natsu, who simply deep-throats it again before going on the offensive and delivers a massive punch to end the battle completely. During this fight, however, he ends up destroying half the city and the royal guards descend upon them, prompting him to flee alongside Happy and Lucy. Natsu and Lucy finally reach the Guild of Fairy Tail, and they enter in to find a huge group of wizards sitting, drinking, and having fun, but before doing anything else, Natsu straight up kicks one of the buck-toothed guys straight in the face, shouting at him for lying about the location of Idemeal. He replies that he simply relayed the information, and a massive brawl breaks out between them, which quickly gets the entire guild involved. The fight keeps involving more and more people, making Lucy scared, but she is reassured by another member of Fairy Tail, who is known as Mira, who is also a supermodel and probably thought. She tells her not to worry as this is a common happening in this guild, before she is pinned by one of the large guys thrown back by Natsu. They all finally decide to bring magic in the equation and start using spells, but before the fight could begin again, a huge giant shadow emerges from above, shouting at them to shut the hell up, who then crushes Natsu under his feet to keep him quiet. The giant looks at Lucy and asks her whether she is a new recruit before he shrinks down in size as if he just hit post-nut clarity and welcomes her to the guild. He becomes an insanely small man who Mira claims to be the leader of this guild, also known as Mac. Mac does a somersault and climbs up on the balcony before shouting at the member for always wrecking up half of the city everywhere they go, before showing them a bunch of papers containing the complaints from the Magic Council. He claims that Natsu destroyed half of the port city, and the other members also always create havoc wherever they go. But instead of chastising them, he ends up encouraging them to follow their hearts, claiming that wizards are like wild animals who can't be controlled. Lucy finally gets the mark of the Fairy Tail, and she walks over to Natsu, who is looking over at the board to find a suitable quest for himself, when a young boy walks in the guild straight up to Mac and asks him whether his father returned or not. Mac tells the boy to go back home as his father is a wizard and can take care of himself, but the boy gets agitated, saying that he was supposed to come 4 days ago, and punches Mac straight in the face before running away. Natsu overhears this, punches the board, and grabs his stuff before walking out of the guild to find the boy's father. Mira explains to Lucy that Natsu's father left him when he was very young, just like mine, and he was raised by a dragon named Emil. The dragon taught him all he knows today, from reading, writing to magic and fighting. One day, however, even the dragon disappeared to get some dragon milk and never returned. Natsu has been roaming the continent ever since to try and find Emil again, but has not been lucky in his ventures yet. Lucy decides to accompany Natsu in his adventures, and they get inside of a carriage to take them near the mountains. Natsu is again sick to his core because of the traveling, but is happy to get out when the carriage stops because of the terrible terrain. Natsu happily gets out of the carriage, and together with Happy and Lucy, he starts climbing up the giant mountain. Lucy is not equipped for the cold as she is wearing the favorite dress of thoughts, whereas Natsu has no trouble in the cold thanks to the fire magic. Lucy finally has enough and uses her magic keys to summon a giant clock. I am just as surprised as you all, don't worry. She enters inside the clock to feel the warmth and tells Natsu to take her back to the guild, which pisses him off and he walks ahead, leaving her alone. While shouting the lost guy's name, Natsu suddenly dodges away as a giant white monkey attacks him. This monster is known as Vulcan, and before Natsu could do anything, Vulcan straight up runs at Lucy inside of the clock and grabs the entire clock before picking it up and running off with it. Natsu runs after Vulcan inside of a cave and finally reaches him, but ends up slipping on the floor and falls over. He asks the monkey whether he has seen a human named Mikao who came here a week ago, and surprisingly enough, the monkey actually seems to know something and calls him over, before pointing outside of the cave. But when Natsu eagerly goes to check, the monkey ends up pushing him out of the cave into the valley below. Lucy quickly runs over to check, but doesn't see anything, and fearing that Natsu might be dead, she takes out one of her magic keys and uses it to call forth the spirit of a minotaur with a giant axe. The minotaur immediately starts simping over the girl and was about to have a fight against the monkey, when Natsu arrives again and ends up kicking the bull away, knocking him out completely. Lucy screams at him that the bull was her spirit, but then asks him how he survived the fall, to which he replies that he was saved by Happy. Finally, the fight is about to start as the monkey tries to punch Natsu down, but he is able to block his attack before delivering a massive kick, throwing him away. The monkey comes back for another attack, but this time Natsu uses a fiery kick to blast him back again. The monkey uses a Hulk smash to distract him, but Natsu stands through it to finally find out that the monkey has picked up the Minotaur's axe and now is armed to the teeth. He tries to attack Natsu, but he is able to dodge every single attack before slipping on the ice again and falling down. The monkey tries to take advantage of this and attacks him, but Natsu is able to stop the axe at the very last moment, and with the heat present in his body, he melts the axe a little bit and drinks the droplets to give him more power, as he simply uses a single punch to blast the monkey into the wall, knocking him out. He tries to question the monkey, but realizes that it is of no use when suddenly, the monkey converts back into Mikao himself, surprising everybody. Lucy is completely surprised as to what just happened, but Happy informs her that Vulcans are special monsters that live by taking over the body of a human, and that must have happened with Mikao as well. An injured Mikao finally wakes up and thanks Natsu for saving him, informing him that he was able to defeat 19 Vulcans, but when he was not looking, the last one ended up overpowering him. Lucy is completely shocked to know that there are so many of these monsters, and they all finally return back to the town, where Mikao is reunited with his wasted life force, while Natsu and Lucy return back to the guild. Ever since being appointed by the Fairy Tale Guild, Lucy ended up renting a house for herself, and one morning Natsu crashes at her place, and after talking for a while and learning about her abilities, offers to team up with her, while Happy tells her that even though Fairy Tale is an entire guild, there are smaller teams inside of it who get along with each other well, whereas till now Natsu didn't have anyone to team up with. Lucy seems to be really happy that someone needs her and agrees to the plan, and afterwards, they discuss their first mission, which is going to be stealing and burning a book from a really rich man in the neighboring city. Lucy asks Natsu, why does he want to take such a miserable mission, but he tells her that this mission will pay them a lot of money, and when Lucy hears the amount of money, even she happily agrees to the quest. Natsu explains that Lucy is going to be the main part of this plan, as the rich man is a certified pervert and is looking for a blonde-haired maid as of now. And that's where Lucy comes in, as she is blonde and all she has to do now is become a maid. They end up taking the carriage again to the next city, while Natsu struggles to keep the contents of his stomach inside his body. They reach the city and Natsu immediately goes over to a restaurant alongside Happy, while Lucy tells them that she needs to do something and goes away. By the time they are done with their lunch, Lucy comes back wearing a beautiful maid's uniform, which definitely made my pants rustle, and they all end up going to the person who is paying for the quest. This elegantly dressed man informs them that he has increased the amount of the reward by 10-fold, and all they have to do is to infiltrate the rich cunt's house and burn the book completely. Natsu and Lucy are shocked to hear that the reward for simply destroying a book is so high, and while Natsu considers blowing the entire mansion up in a single blow, Lucy asks the man why he wants the book to be destroyed so badly, to which he replies that he just can't have that book be found by the wrong people, and begs them to destroy the book at any cost. They leave his house and make their way towards the rich guy's place, where Lucy tries for a very long time to get someone to answer the door, but no one seems to be at home, when suddenly from beneath the ground, a fat woman emerges who will probably become the next model for Vogue magazine, considering the direction of body positivity movement. The fatty asks Lucy whether she is here for the maid job, and when she replies that she is, the rich midget appears from beneath the ground to inspect the maid, and after a thorough inspection, he tells her to frick off as she is very ugly and he doesn't like her at all. He tells her that he only hires the prettiest looking maids, and suddenly a bunch of more ugly looking maids erupt from the ground, who start rubbing their body on the sick man. He calls her ugly again and throws her out before returning back to the mansion. She cries by the tree while Natsu and Happy try to figure out a new plan. Natsu jumps on top of the building while Happy carries her up, and he uses his fire to melt the glass, and they enter the mansion secretly and start looking thoroughly to find any trace of the book that they want. While walking inside, suddenly all of the maids emerge from the ground, but Natsu uses a single punch to get rid of the ugly ones, before the ugly fatty jumps on top of him, crushing him. Thankfully, however, Natsu is strong and he lifts her up before kicking her away. They search some more before entering a giant library, which is filled with all kinds of books. The problem is that they don't know which book they need to burn, so they start looking through everything blindly when Lucy ends up finding a golden book, which is written by a very famed author that she knows of. She is shocked to see this book, as she never knew the author worked on this book and wants to take it home safely and read it, but Natsu tells her that they have to burn it right now as they are on a job. Lucy, however, is adamant that this book could be a very important key to something big and doesn't want to waste this opportunity, but Natsu threatens her by saying that he will make a tandoori meal out of her if she doesn't give him the book. Suddenly, the rich midget bursts through the floor and asks them why are they breaking in his house just for a stupid book, making Lucy realize that whatever is inside the book, the rich midget has no idea about it, so she asks him whether she could take the book. He calls her ugly again and refuses before telling her to return the book, while Natsu tells her to hand the book over so he can burn it. Lucy tells them to shut up and sits down to read the book right then and there. The rich midget ends up calling his trump card, and two men emerge from one of the hidden rooms who Happy recognizes as the members of a mercenary group. They look down upon Natsu, calling him a bubblegum-haired wizard who is no match for him. But while Lucy reads through the book, she realizes that the book has hidden secrets and tells Natsu to hold the men off, while she runs back into the hidden room, closing herself in, leaving Natsu to deal with the mercenaries. The rich midget tells the mercenary to deal with Natsu while he goes after Lucy. Natsu immediately attacks, but one of the guys simply uses a frying pan to stop his attack, telling him that he has no chance against them as they specialize in fighting against fire wizards. They push him back and kick him outside, but he is able to regain his balance, while both of them jump in for attacks again, which Natsu is able to expertly dodge. He tells the duo to try their best, and they end up doing a combined attack, and one of the guys hits him with the pan, while the other one kicks him into the ground. Nadas, however, is one tough cookie and gets back to his feet without any troubles before using his fiery breath at them. The two mercenaries seem to be expecting this attack as they use their frying pan to absorb the magic and send it back towards Natsu, thinking that they have ended him. But to their surprise and horror, Natsu simply eats up the entire fire magic, getting even stronger, and delivers a massive attack, smoking the two mercenaries like IKEA salmon and destroying the entire house in the process. After destroying the mercenaries, Natsu tries to find out where Happy and Lucy are, while Lucy is busy fighting against this creepy rich fat idiot. He grabs her and tells her to drop the book, but she straight up refuses, while trying her best to wrestle him off her arms, but the man ends up bending her over and reminded me of a cultured anime that I watched, including An Ugly Bastard. But thankfully, Happy comes to the rescue and kicks the guy away, freeing Lucy, but his transformation wears out and he ends up falling into a sewer, where he surprisingly enjoys his stay. Lucy takes out one of her keys and tells the fatty to back off before she uses her magic to end his life, but the creep is one of the weirdest villains that I have ever seen, as he simply digs his way inside of the floor and starts attacking Lucy from multiple directions, while she tries to dodge. He tells her to tell them the secret inside of the book and whether it directs them towards any treasure, but she replies that she will never reveal to him what this book is actually about, while still trying to dodge against his constant barrage of attacks. He tells her that he was the one who told that author to write a book for him, but the author refused, so he ended up threatening the livelihood of his family and imprisoned him in a small cell, while forcing him to write a novel about him. The poor author didn't want to spoil his legacy by writing a dumb book, so he ended up writing a very mediocre trash book about him, which was never published as the fatty didn't like it enough. Lucy, however, claims that the book is more than what it looks to be. At first sight, it might feel like an ordinary book, but the author was a wizard, and he ended up using magic to make it so that the book can only be read by the person who he wants to give it to. This shocks Fatty, who gets scared that the book might contain information about his underhanded operations and tries his very best to get the book, but fails. She finally takes out one of the magical keys and summons a spirit in the form of a man with scissors in his hands who thinks he is a crab or something. It turns out, however, that even the fatty has magical keys, and he himself uses them to summon the big fat future Vogue plus size model, but to everyone's surprise, Natsu comes alongside her. Lucy is shocked to see this and asks him how he was able to find them, but he simply explains that he saw the whale move, so he grabbed her and simply came here. Natsu hops off of her as she tries to punch him, but he dodges and uses his massive fiery breath to blast her away. Meanwhile, Lucy uses her whip to capture the fatty and throws him towards the crab man, who uses his scissors to give him a haircut. Damn, this anime is super weird. Anyways, they escape the mansion before it crumbles before them and go back to the person who put the quest for the book. He is shocked to see the book and tells them that he wanted it to be burned, but Lucy tells him that she thinks he should read it. The guy still seems to be very apprehensive, but Lucy tells him that she knows the truth, that he is the son of the main author, and tells him that the book has been dedicated to him, so why does he want it burned? The man replies that one day his father disappeared and came back after 3 years, claiming that he has written the worst book by far, and that he doesn't want to write a single word again before grabbing a cleaver and chopping his arm off. He was admitted to a hospital and seemed to be at peace, but the son was still mad at him for leaving them for 3 years without any contact. Dude, I haven't had any contact with my dad for the past 20 years and I turned out to be just fine, so don't worry. The author died shortly after, and for a long time, the son was still mad at him, but years turned his anger into sorrow and regret, so he wanted the work, for which he died to be burned. Lucy asks him one last time to check what's in the book, and he ends up opening the magic seal, which surprisingly rearranges the entire title of the book alongside the contents inside, and it turns out that the book was simply a letter to his son about how much he is proud of him and how much he loves him. The man starts crying as Natsu tells him that he doesn't need to pay them anything as they never finished the job, which was burning the book, and starts walking away. Lucy seems to be shocked at how can he refuse such a high reward, but Natsu tells her to follow and later explains that the man is super poor and he simply rented a giant mansion as no one was taking his quest. He was able to figure this out as he smelled like a poor person, which was contrasting with the rich house. They start walking down the grass roads once again through hills and dirt, and when Lucy got tired, she simply summoned the clock and went inside it so he can carry her around. While walking through a swamp, they hear a bunch of noises coming from a nearby bush, and without any warning, Natsu simply jumps into the bush, trying to fight whoever was there. It turns out that the guy inside the bush was none other than Gray, another wizard from the fairy tale, who has a bad habit of getting undressed. He asks him why the hell is he naked, and he replies that he was simply looking for a spot to piss. They start bickering and fighting before settling down, and Gray tells them that they should also hurry back home as Ezra is coming. Lucy seems to have heard the name of Ezra, who is supposed to be the strongest fighter from fairy tale, and both Natsu and Gray seem to be scared of her, calling her a demon who can kick several mountains to dust and whatnot. Suddenly, there's a huge explosion where they were, and when the dust settles, they find themselves buried neck deep in sand, while Happy is captured by a bunch of people who put him on a wooden stick to roast him over open fire. Natsu shouts at them to leave Happy alone as both him and Gray jump down, beating the crap out of the opponents in front of them. One of the weird-looking guys end up using sand magic to trap Natsu, but Gray simply ignores him, before telling Lucy to save Happy as he goes ahead to kick 2 more enemies aside, before saving Lucy from a giant weird chicken. The last guy seems to have a magical ball in his hands, but he turns out to simply be a stupid fortune teller and is dealt with easily. Natsu finally explodes through the sandy cage and uses high fiery fist to defeat the final guy, before they tie all of them up around a tree for questioning. Before they can question them further, however, a shadow approaches them from behind and takes away all of their prisoners in one fell swoop, while all they can do is watch. They all return back to the guild, where Natsu is worried about not having enough food money because he eats so much, which reminds Lucy that even she needs to earn money to pay her rent. She walks over to the board and starts looking for quests that are paying a good amount of money, but sadly most of the quests were out of her skill capacity. Natsu calls out to her and tells her that she should also choose something for him as they are a team, which Lucy has no idea how to feel about. Mira starts talking to Lucy, and she explains how the guilds are interconnected and how they all work under the same greater cause, even if they are fundamentally different. For no reason, Gray and Natsu get on each other's throats again, while another guy tries to hit on Lucy, who scares him away by showing her the magical keys. While Natsu and Gray were still at each other's throats, one of the guys comes inside of the guild scared, screaming that Ezra is coming back to the guild, and the entire atmosphere of the guild changes. A young woman with a full set of armor enters the guild with a giant horn on her shoulders and puts it down on the ground, shaking the entire guild before she starts asking about the location of the guildmaster. Mira welcomes her and tells her that the guildmaster is still at a meeting, and she can leave a message with her if she wants to. A couple of guys ask about the mysterious horn, and she replies that she recently subdued and killed a giant monster, and the locals were so happy that they ended up giving her the horn as a souvenir after some decorations. She then looks around and shouts at everyone to behave as she is hearing bad things about Fairy Tail and how their members destroyed everything they can get their hands on. She chastises a lot of the members one by one before turning towards Natsu and Gray, who immediately start acting like best friends, saying that they are going along very well. Lucy is shocked to see this, but Mira replies that once Natsu ended up challenging Erza to a fight, and she ended up beating the crap out of him, which made him a right little bitch every time she talks to him. Eva deserves a strong mommy like that. She also tells Lucy that she ended up beating the daylights out of Gray as well because he was not wearing proper uniform, and is known for beating anyone who she doesn't think is behaving properly. Erza turns towards Gray and Natsu and tells them that usually she would have gone straight to the master for this problem, but they don't have enough time, so she wants both of them to team up and accompany her on her next mission. Everyone is shocked to hear that the mighty Erza is asking for help, as she always works alone, but this time she asks for a team. Both Natsu and Gray look at each other with hateful eyes, but don't dare to say anything in front of Erza and comply to her request. The next morning, Natsu, Gray, and Lucy wait at the station, while both the boys are busy fighting each other for absolutely no reason. After a while, Erza arrives at the station with a buttload of luggage, reminding me of my mother when we have to take a 30-minute train ride. Natsu and Gray immediately start behaving as best friends once again, while Erza asks Lucy about herself. They introduce themselves to each other, but are interrupted when Natsu calls Erza out and challenges her to a fight once they return from this mission, as he considers himself to be even more powerful than Erza now, after years of training. Gray thinks that this is a death sentence, but Erza agrees to the fight, and they all happily board the train. Soon after boarding the train, Natsu starts flopping around because of motion sickness, and Erza calls him towards her and lets him rest his head on her, before punching him in the stomach and knocking him out so he can quit his moaning. Gray asks Erza to disclose about the details of the mission, and she reveals that she is following clues about some weird men who seem to be after a special magic item and the keyword Lullaby. They seem to be clueless about what it is, while Erza explains that she was in a bar when she overheard a bunch of men talking about it, and in the conversation they mentioned the name of a very famous assassin, who used to be in one of the guilds but was kicked out when he refused to stop his assassination contracts, even though the Magic Council banned assassination requests. Ever since that, he created his own dark guild, and is oftentimes reported to be seen at the sites of murder. She tells them that at that time she didn't recognize his name, otherwise she would have apprehended the men then and there, but they have escaped by now, and it is on them to figure out what is this all about. She tells Gray that she plans to storm the entire guild, but felt like she can't take the entire guild alone, so she ended up asking for help from the two strongest fighters of the guild. The train finally stops at the destination and they all get out, but while still talking about their plans, they end up forgetting that Natsu is still in the train, and the train moves off towards the next station. Natsu keeps rolling around on his seat, sick to the core, when suddenly a guy walks up to him, seemingly surprised to see a fairy tale wizard on the train, but before Natsu could say anything, he kicks him in the face. Natsu gets up angry and starts channeling his magical energy, but because of his sickness is unable to do so, while the guy uses his dark magic to summon a bunch of invisible hands that punch Natsu to the ground. Suddenly, however, the train ends up stopping, which leads to both of them falling on the ground, and a weird flute, the skull, falls off the enemy's coat. Now that the train has stopped, Natsu regains his composure and uses his fiery fists to attack the enemy, and even though the enemy tries to defend, Natsu is able to punch him to the wall. Before he can finish the enemy off, however, the announcement is made about the train about to start moving again, which scares Natsu, and he quickly starts taking out his bags and climbs on top of the train before jumping out towards the fast-moving vehicle, which is driven by Erza. He ends up knocking his head against Gray's head, and after they both stand up, he tells them that a weirdo attacked him on the train with a skull flute who said something about being from a dark guild. Erza slaps him for not stopping the guy before hopping in the vehicle again, while Lucy contemplates whether this magic flute is one of the very accursed items that can bring death to whoever hears the song. Erza tells them to be careful as she starts speeding through the wasteland, eager to reach the enemies before they bring any kind of catastrophe to the common people living nearby. Erza keeps speeding through the city while Natsu is dying because of the vehicle, but Erza pays him no regard, as her first order of business is to stop these villains no matter what. They finally are able to reach the nearby station, where they find a huge crowd already in front of the station. The guards announce that there has been a derailment on the tracks, which was done by some evil wizards, and Erza immediately goes over to him for more information, but he doesn't answer him immediately. So she ends up punching him and moves on to the next guy for information, punching him as well when he doesn't reply immediately. She's finally able to get the information regarding the whereabouts of the Dark Guild, and all of them rush inside, while Lucy is still carrying the limp body of Natsu, who is sick after the long rides. They enter inside and find a bunch of military guards lying on the floor, while Erza tells them that the military was of no use against such dark wizards and was a total waste. They keep moving and finally reach the area, only to find the entire Dark Guild together, standing against them alongside the assassin, who I will call the Reaper. Lucy tries to wake Natsu up, telling him that it is not the time to sleep as the enemies are nearby, but Natsu is still barely conscious. Erza asks Reaper, what's he going to do with the flute over here? And he simply takes to the air with the help of his wind magic, and like a jobless pigeon, he ends up sitting over the megaphone speaker of the train, telling them that he is going to play the flute from the control room and the speaker will amplify the noise, killing all those people standing outside the station. And if he can increase the volume even more, he might even be able to make the sound audible all over the city, causing mass killings. The weird-haired guy who met Natsu in the train interrupts them and uses his magical hands to try and attack them, but Natsu ends up waking up after hearing his voice and is easily able to block the attacks, totally fired up once again. The Reaper simply tells his underlings to deal with the fairy tale wizards and he simply disappears. Before they can begin fighting, however, Erza tells both Natsu and Gray that they should follow the Reaper, and if they fight together, even the Reaper would fall before them. She tells them that she will take care of the remaining members of that guild and pushes them ahead, telling them to work together. They both run ahead, but two of the Dark Guild members, including the turnip head guy, end up following them, while Erza gets ready to deal with the rest. Erza finally summons her sword and gets ready for a fight, telling the Dark Guild members to surrender, but they end up attacking her all at once, but Mommy is super strong and she starts beating up hordes of enemies at once. Some of the magic users try shooting magic projectiles at her, but she is able to simply dodge them and changes her sword for a spear before hitting a bunch of enemies at once again. She then again changes her weapon to a set of small swords and starts attacking the enemies, shocking them to the core as they haven't seen a magic user like her who can switch through weapons so easily. Lucy is confused as to what's happening, but Happy informs her that Erza basically has a secret portal up her ass, which she uses to store a bunch of weapons, but usually switching weapons take much more time than what she is seeing right now. Watching Erza being a girl boss ignites a flame inside of Lucy, who takes out one of her magic keys and calls forth the Crab Boy once again. A lot of enemies try to attack Lucy at once, but the Crab Boy is able to slice through their weapons, while giving them all a shitty haircut at the same time. Still, however, a bunch of enemies are remaining and Erza gets tired of this, and decides to transform into her final form. She channels her magical energy and summons a beautiful magical armor, in which she is looking like a total dominatrix. She summons a bunch of flying swords around her, while the guys simply watch her in awe. She then uses the sword to defeat every single one of them, apart from a lanky dude and a fatty. The lanky guy tries to attack her, but she defeats him with ease before transforming back to normal. The fatty gets terrified of her and runs away, and Erza tells Lucy to follow and defeat him, while she goes down to one knee because of overexpending her magical abilities. She then goes over to the balcony and with a megaphone, shouts at the people below to run for their lives and bar their doors as the station has been taken over by an evil organization who are trying to put a death curse on them. Thankfully, all of the people start running away scared, while she tells the guards to do the same. Meanwhile, both Natsu and Gray are still trying to find the Reaper, and while bickering with each other, they reach crossroads where they are forced to split into two teams to search for the enemy. Gray goes over to the control room but finds it to be empty when suddenly he is attacked by the mummy dude but dodges his blow. The mummy keeps attacking him, but he keeps dodging the attacks when finally he decides to fight back and creates an ice shield to block the attacks before creating some ice fists to hit the guy back. Gray realizes that their plan must be different and asks the mummy what their real plan is, while the mummy simply smiles and claims that the wind barrier must be up by now and there is nothing that they can do to save anyone now. Gray grabs him by the collar and shoves him against the wall, forcing him to tell the truth, when the mummy replies that hijacking the station was just the first part of their plan, so that they can get rid of pesky wizards like them. Now that the wind barrier is created, they cannot leave the station, and in the meantime, the Reaper will go over to the next town, where the meeting of all the guild masters is taking place. He will then blast the song of the magic flute over there, killing all of them and toppling the current magic council. While Gray gets distracted by this, the mummy is able to hit him back with his weird tentacle things. The mummy then grabs Gray with his weird tentacle things, but he is able to use his ice magic and freezes the tentacles off before shattering them to pieces. He then moves over to the mummy and completely freezes him as well before moving ahead. Gray returns back to Erza and asks her whether she is fine while she is busy tying the injured men together. She asked about Natsu, but he quickly dismisses it by saying that they were separated during combat, and that it's not important because their actual target is the city up ahead, where all of the elders are having a meeting. Erza is shocked to know that and asks him whether he is sure, and he replies that he is, before he tells her that he also saw the giant wind tornado outside the station, and that they need to find a way out of it real quick. She tells Gray that one of the members named Cage that Natsu is chasing is actually a very special magician who is able to nullify other magics, and if they are able to catch him, they can make him nullify the tornado outside, but Natsu is having a lot of trouble figuring out the position of the enemy, and he simply starts burning and breaking down anything and everything that comes in front of him, but is unsuccessful. Cage ends up trying to have fun and punches Natsu from behind, throwing him against the walls. Natsu gets up and wants to beat the crap out of Cage, but restrains himself and asks him about the location of the Reaper. Cage simply laughs at him, thinking that Natsu is scared of him and doesn't really want to fight him. So he ends up proposing a deal with him, claiming that if he is able to beat him in a fight, he might reveal the location of the Reaper. Natsu gets super excited about this, as now he can beat the crap out of Cage and get the information as well. Cage tries to use his shadow punches again and again, but Natsu is able to dodge the blows every single time, shocking Cage, who thought that it was going to be a breeze. Cage decides to use one of his strongest attacks, the snake shadows, but Natsu simply uses his fiery fists to retaliate and destroys the shadow snakes all at once, which scares Cage, as he didn't think Natsu was even remotely this strong. Natsu lands another final massive punch and throws him into the wall, cracking every bone in his body as he lay on the ground defeated. He starts questioning him, but before he can answer, Erza arrives alongside Gray and simply uses her sword to begin the conversation by burying it deep in the wall, just beside Gray's head. She tells him that if he wants to live, he will obey their commands and nullify the wind magic barrier outside the station. Cage seems to be reluctant, but agrees in the end when suddenly, a magic circle appears within his chest, and a hand erupts through him, fatally wounding him. It turns out that one of the cronies that can teleport ended up getting the orders to kill Cage before he can help our heroes. Erza quickly grabs Cage, telling him not to die, while Natsu gets so extremely pissed that he uses his fiery punches to punch the enemy through another dimension, knocking him out completely, while he shouts at him for attacking his own comrade, berating his humanity. Erza still keeps trying to wake Cage up and starts banging his head against the floor. Erza doesn't seem to be the smartest cookie in the jar, but I love girls who have a bit of crazy in them. Anyways, now they have to find a way out of the tornado thingy, because they don't have the option of taking help from Cage, as they are barely even able to keep him alive, and in this condition, he cannot use his magic whatsoever. They all go outside as Erza tells them that anyone who touches this tornado barrier gets injured pretty badly, while showing her injuries. Natsu, on the other hand, doesn't really give a crap and tries to use his fiery fists to break through, but fails miserably and is knocked back. Natsu, however, is hellbent on getting out of this situation and gets up again and again, punching and kicking the wall, only to be met by the same results. Natsu, however, gets up again and tries to rush into the wind wall, but ends up getting stopped by Lucy, who grabs him from behind. This suddenly reminds Natsu about the incident when he got transported through the celestial world to the next place, as he grabbed onto the fat maid at the rich fat guy's mansion. Lucy tells him that it is not possible, as they need to have another celestial wizard outside the tornado wall, and they don't have that liberty. Natsu suddenly remembers that the fat maid was able to dig her way through everything, and if they had her, they could have used her to get out of this situation. When suddenly Happy exclaims that he just remembered that after defeating the rich fat cunt, the fat maid's spirit met him and told him that she wanted to make a contract with Lucy, as she doesn't have any owner as of now, as he produces the key. They get extremely happy, and Lucy uses the key to summon the maid, who looks nothing like the fat gorilla we saw, but instead has transformed into a petite young woman. Lucy and Natsu are both shocked at this, while Gray doesn't understand what's wrong with her appearance. The maid shows her older form, scaring both Natsu and Gray before telling them that she can transform into the shape that her master desires the most. Lucy quickly tells Virgo that there is no time to forge an official contract, so can she simply start working, and she complies before digging straight down and out into the open. They all follow her through and are able to escape the area safely, and looks around to realize that both Happy and Natsu seem to be missing. As soon as they got out, Natsu told Happy to use all his magic energy to fly as fast as possible, and with the speed of rocket, he was just able to catch up to the Reaper, colliding with him mid-air as he falls back to the track below. He grabs Happy, as he tells him that he can't move another muscle because of all the flying, but Natsu thanks him, telling him that it's enough, while the Reaper uses his wind magic to try and throw him off the track, but Natsu is able to stick through, and then uses the fire blast towards the Reaper, before trying to punch him. The Reaper, however, is able to dodge, shocked at his strength and tenacity. Before missing a beat, Natsu follows through with another punch, which the Reaper is able to block, but again is shocked at the power behind them. The Reaper starts flying and decides that he can't take any chances against this boy and starts flying to maintain a distance between himself and Natsu before he uses a tornado spell to throw Natsu up in the air and down in the valley by pushing him off the tracks. Happy looks at it helplessly as he doesn't have any energy to transform his wings and help Natsu. Natsu ends up falling over and smashes his head through a couple of boulders while thinking of ways to escape this conundrum when he suddenly remembered that once Mikao taught him that he can change the properties of his fire at will if he really wants to, and instead of simply burning everything he touches with it, he can actually control it to only burn according to him. Natsu tries and succeeds in taking control over his fire and uses it to push himself out of the valley and back onto the tracks again. He then uses his fiery breath, blowing it directly at the Reaper, but by expending a lot of energy, the Reaper is able to block the attack. The Reaper acknowledges his strength and tells him that now he will not be holding back, and Natsu replies that neither will he. The Reaper covers himself in a typhoon filled with insanely fast-moving winds, which creates an armor around him. Natsu tries to punch him, but his fire is simply blown away by the strong air currents. The Reaper tells him to admit defeat, as he can never defeat his wind magic with his fire magic, and every time he tries to attack him, he will be blown away by the strong winds. He then takes to the air and attacks Natsu with some magic spikes, which he is able to dodge before covering himself in fire and blasting off towards the Reaper for an attack with his fiery fists. The Reaper, however, simply uses his magic to blast him back to the ground. Before he could regain his balance, the Reaper uses his strongest magic attack and blasts it at Natsu, who is unable to dodge it in time, and takes the brunt of the hit, getting blasted away and lays on the ground motionless and unconscious, while poor Happy tries to shake him back up. The Reaper is impressed by Natsu's physical prowess, as he claims that even the toughest men that he has seen would have gotten torn to shreds if they were hit directly by this attack, but Natsu doesn't even have a scratch. Before he could finish Natsu off, however, he wakes up once again, ready to throw himself at the enemy. Natsu uses his fiery fists to attack him, but is blown back once again without an issue. This enrages Natsu, who becomes Shirazed, and starts trying to rip the tracks off of the railway line. His entire body gets enveloped in fire as he taps into his latent potential because of his anger, and suddenly the wind around the Reaper starts to grow weaker. Because of the insane amount of heat that Natsu is producing, an air vacuum is created around him, which results in the wind around the Reaper to dissipate, leaving him vulnerable. Happy quickly realizes what's going on and provokes Natsu even more by saying that Gray could have defeated the Reaper much more easily and quickly, which pisses the crap out of Natsu as he gets even more enraged and the flames around him grow till the air around the Reaper completely vanishes. Natsu then unleashes a nuclear punch, which gives the Reaper some Hiroshima flashbacks as he is blasted away into oblivion by a single punch, losing the battle immediately, while Happy and Natsu celebrate. Soon after that, even Erza, Gray, and Lucy arrive at the point alongside an injured Cage, who is horrified to see that the most powerful member of his guild has been defeated by a single wizard. Erza seems to be super weak from the fighting and the driving, while Natsu and Gray butt their heads again on who is stronger. Erza tells the rest that they are going to the nearby Clover City, where the elders are holding their meeting, and they will deliver the Death Flute alongside the reports of what happened. Before they could do anything, however, Cage ends up hijacking the vehicle, and with the help of his magic hands, steals the flute and runs away on the vehicle, leaving the party shocked. They run after the piece of shit, but Cage ends up meeting the guild master himself inside of a jungle, where he was probably wonking his willy. Cage believes it to be his golden ticket and asks Mac whether he could play a song for him. Mac looks at him and tells him that the flute looks ugly and disturbing, but Cage ignores him, telling him that it will be his honor to play for a wizard. Mac tells him to go ahead just when the party arrives nearby, but is stopped by some other guild masters who tells them to stay and watch. Mac stands there confidently, telling Cage to play the flute, but the guild master's unwavering eyes and kind look changes Cage's heart as he decides that he no longer wants to take any revenge and drops the flute to the ground. Suddenly, however, the flute gets a life on its own and calls all the other wizards pussies before becoming a giant monster and tells them that it will destroy humanity as is. All of the wizards are shocked to see the flute becoming sentient, and it turns out that there was a royal army marching nearby who spot the monster and try to attack it, but the monster simply fires an energy blast at a nearby mountain, converting the mountains into dust, making the Amy tuck tails between their legs and run away. Erza tells both Natsu and Gray that they have to take this monster down together, and they start bickering amongst themselves, saying that they can defeat the monster alone, but one cold stare from Erza gets them both back into line, and they get into formation to lay down a plan of attack. They rush towards the monster and jump into the air, while Erza transforms herself into the goddess form and lands a massive slash across the monster, while Gray uses his ice magic to stab the monster with several ice spikes, and Natsu covers his fists in fire and uses it to punch the monster straight in the face. This enrages the monster and tries to strike them down, but they all dodge before Erza and Gray attack it again, paving a way for Natsu to land another massive strike. The monster decides to play the death song right then and there to end the fight and the lives of everyone around the area. The monster takes in a deep breath and starts playing this sound, while everyone covers their ears, but it turns out that the fight resulted in the formation of several holes in the monster's body, essentially making the flute damaged and unable to produce any sound. This infuriates the monster, who starts smashing things up, but Gray and Natsu defend the others before going on the offensive once again, which is initiated by Erza and Gray delivering multiple strikes back-to-back, while Natsu charges up for a final attack and uses a spirit bomb attack to utterly evaporate the giant monster, creating a massive hole in the ground, even destroying some mountains in the process. Everyone around them is totally shocked and impressed to see such an incredible performance by these upcoming wizards as they grab their guildmaster and walk away from the scene. Now that Erza and her party are back from the quest and have successfully defeated the Dark Guild, Natsu now challenges her to a fight again in front of everyone. All of the members of the guild come together on the street as Natsu and Erza both get ready for a disastrous duel. Everyone cheers on while several people bet on Erza and some bet on Natsu. Natsu had his duel with Erza when he was a kid last time, and in the several years following by, he has increased his strength and combat abilities by several fold, and a lot of people believe that he might have a chance against Erza after all. Erza is ready for the duel and warns him that she isn't going to pull any punches, but Natsu is fired up and tells her to try her best. Erza quickly transforms into one of her beautiful fire-based armor, which is extremely effective against a fire-type wizard like Natsu, but he's unfazed by it and immediately rushes in for a fiery punch, which Erza is able to dodge before trying to hit him back with her staff, but he dodges her and counters with a fiery kick, which Erza is able to dodge as well. He backs off and becomes Charizard, blowing his flamethrower at her, but she simply dodges nimbly, and both of them were just about to clash again, when Peep the Frog comes in between and stops the fight, telling them that she is from the Magic Council, and is here to arrest Erza for the crime of destroying the train station and an entire city, alongside some mountains in her last fight against the members of the Dark Guilds. Everyone is shocked at this, but none of them can do anything if the Magical Council is the supreme power, and they can do whatever the hell they want to do without any repercussions. Erza is taken away by Pepe, while the rest of the members go back inside of the guild. Unsurprisingly, however, Natsu isn't going to take this sitting down and is missing from the guild. Turns out that he ended up dressing up as a Walmart Erza and broke through the walls of the Magical Council, claiming to be the person who destroyed the cities while being dressed up as Erza just for fun, and that it is not Erza's fault. He is captured, of course, and put in with Erza in the same cell. Erza calls him a smooth-brained idiot as she explains that the arrest was just a farce, so people can have the perception that the wizards are being controlled, and in reality, she would have been back at the guild in a couple of hours. But because Natsu pulled that bullshit earlier, now they have to spend the night in the cell for no reason. Even though Natsu is stupid, however, she still liked the fact that he tried to save her, and basically falls for his fiery balls. The next day, they all return back to the guild after some banter. Natsu shouts at Erza to continue their duel that was taking place the day prior, but surprisingly enough, Erza tells him that she is tired and doesn't want to fight right now. Natsu, however, has the brain power of a protein shake and ends up charging at her with his fiery fists, but to everyone's surprise, gets knocked out with a single punch by Erza. Everyone starts laughing, but suddenly, the guildmaster claims that he feels sleepy and everyone follows this pattern before getting knocked to sleep immediately. Only the guildmaster is able to resist the magic as a man wearing a cloak walks in, covering his face, and goes over to the notice board before picking up one of the quests and walking away. Everyone wakes up as the man leaves, and Lucy seems to be completely surprised as to what just happened. Mira explains that this was the work of Mistogen, one of the strongest members of their guild, who doesn't want anyone to know his identity, so he always knocks everyone out before taking the quest. The only person who has seen his face is the guildmaster and another guy named Laxus, who is also one of the strongest members of Fairy Tail. Laxus appears on the balcony, and Natsu, the idiot panda, immediately challenges him to a fight. Laxus, however, dismisses Natsu instantly, telling him that if he can't even defeat Erza, then he has no chance against him. Natsu, however, is not fazed so easily and tells him to shut up and fight him, before trying to jump up to the second floor, but the guildmaster uses his magic to enlarge his fist and smashes Natsu down, telling him that he is not allowed on the second floor. Lucy asks Mira about the rule, and Mira explains that the second floor has a notice board which is reserved for only 5 people in the guild, including Mistogen, Laxus, and Erza. That board contains the most deadly quests and are basically S-ranked that can only be taken by S-ranked adventurers. Lucy asks her whether they can ever get to that rank, but she simply replies that only the guild master has the power to decide who gets that quest and who doesn't. Later that night, Lucy returns back to her house and enters her room only to be horrified by seeing Natsu and Happy working out on her bed. She kicks them to the ground, where they again start working out before handing her one of the flyers from the notice board. Lucy looks at it and is horrified to see that this is one of the S-ranked quests that Mira was talking about. She asks Natsu where he got it from, and it turns out that Happy stole it. Natsu tells her that he is going to go for that quest, and wants her to accompany him, as he wants to prove himself to the guildmaster, but Lucy refuses straight up, telling him that this is suicide, and that he should forget about it. Natsu, however, is not a person who gives up and tells her that he's going to go, with or without her, before jumping out of her window. She looks at the flyer again and notices that it says the person who completes the quest will receive a special magical key to one of the strongest spirits, and this turns Lucy on, who immediately rushes outside, telling Natsu to wait up, as she is coming as well. The entire guild is in turmoil as they have no idea what to do now that Natsu has taken the flyer and has gone off for the quest. The guildmaster asks Mira about Erza's whereabouts, but it turns out that even she is out for a quest, which doesn't leave a lot of people who are strong enough to control Natsu. Finally, the guildmaster goes over to Laxus and asks him to bring Natsu back, but he refuses, saying that he isn't going to go after someone that dumb and waste his precious time. The guildmaster tells him that only he can forcefully bring Natsu back, but this rubs Gray the wrong way, and he tells the master that he can easily get Natsu back on his own, before leaving to find him. Natsu and Lucy, on the other hand, finally reach near a port town, and they seem to be pretty happy, when Lucy tells them that they need to find a boat. Natsu immediately tells her that she is crazy, and that they will reach the island by swimming across the ocean. Looks like he has been drinking too much Red Bull. Lucy shuts him down and starts asking the sailors and the fishing boats around the area to take them to the island, but all of them refuse to help them, saying that they want nothing to do with that island. Natsu seems to be happy and says that they should simply swim, when suddenly Gray arrives behind them, taking them by surprise. He tells them that he is here to take them back, and that they will probably get kicked out of the guild for doing something so stupid. Lucy seems to be horrified, but Natsu is unfazed by it, telling him that he is not coming back. Both him and Gray were about to come to blows when one of the sailors asks them whether they are wizards who lift the curse of the island, and Natsu immediately replies that they are indeed wizards who are here to save the island. He tells them that he will take them to the island, but Gray starts telling them that they are going nowhere when Natsu knocks him out and throws him into the boat alongside them. By the time Gray wakes up, Natsu is a mess, puking in the sea, while the sailor tells them that no one likes going near the island because it is cursed, and he has been looking forward to find someone who could lift the curse. Lucy asks him what kind of curse he is talking about, but the sailor doesn't reply and instead simply shows her his arm, which seems to be that of a demon. Lucy is horrified after seeing that, and the sailor finally points out an island in the distance, telling them that their destination is nearby. They all look at the island, but when they turn back, they find out that the sailor seems to be missing. And before they can figure out what really happened, a huge wave rises up, and they end up getting enveloped inside of it, going inside the water. They wake up the next day on the bank of the island, and thankfully, all of them seem to be okay. Natsu is grateful to touch solid ground again and runs around the island in joy. Lucy gets the flyer out and reads that there is a village inside of this island, and the village elder requested the quest, so they have to go and meet him. Gray stands up and tells them to wait, but Natsu tells him that he cannot take them back as the boat is nowhere to be found. Surprisingly though, Gray tells them that he is going to work with them, as he can't take the chances to be overshadowed by someone as stupid as Natsu, so he will help them in completing the task. They wander through the forest the entire day and finally arrive at the village by nightfall. The village seems to be closed by a massive door, so they shoot at the door to open, and some guards ask them from up above whether they are friends or foes. Lucy shouts at them that they are the wizards from the guild Fairy Tale, but the village was not notified of their arrival, so they have to show them their emblems before they are welcomed inside of the village. They are greeted by the elder, who thanks them for accepting the job, before telling them about the curse of the island. He tells the people around him to remove their robes, and they do so without a second thought. When I say something like this, people call it sexual harassment. Natus and the rest are shocked to see that all of these villagers seem to have some sort of abnormality and disfigurement in their body, similar to that of the sailor that brought them here. Greg and Lucy sympathize with them, while Natsu thinks that they are cool and wants to have some horns or tails as well. Gray asks the elder whether he is sure that this disfigurement is due to a curse and not some contagious disease, but the elder tells him that they have gone over to several doctors, but they don't have any idea of any such ailments ever existing. He tells Gray that the island has been basking in the moonlight for thousands of years, but some time ago the moon turned purple, and that's when this curse began. According to them, the moon is the culprit behind this all, and as the clouds move away from the moon, Lucy sees the purple moon in its full glory, but suddenly, all of the villagers start going through painful transformation and change into full demonoids but seem to retain their humanity. The elder tells them that every time the purple moon shines upon them, they get transformed into such demonoids, and many times some of them lose their humanity as well and end up attacking the others. According to him, there is no hope for these unlucky individuals, and they simply kill the person who loses their humanity, and he shows them a picture of his son, who underwent through a similar fate some time ago, and Lucy is shocked to see that the picture shows them the guy who just sailed them over here, as his spirits is still roaming around the island because he is unable to rest. The elder tells them that there is only one thing that can save them, and it is to destroy the moon completely. Gray and Lucy are surprised to hear that, but they don't say anything. They all are offered food and shelter, where Natsu seems to be down to destroy the moon completely, and already calculating how many punches it should take for him to destroy the moon, whereas Gray tells them that they should get some rest as they have a long day ahead of them, and not many clues to go by, so they go ahead to get some rest before starting on their quest from the following day. The next day, they wake up totally refreshed, and are excited to move forward with their journey, and Lucy immediately calls upon the clock spirit and gets inside of it, as she is scared of the curse, while Natsu and Gray walk ahead with a carefree attitude, ready to face any danger, when suddenly, they feel the earth rumbling, and turn around to see a giant rat thingy, with a very scary smile on its face. Gray reacts quickly and creates an ice shield in front of them, but the rat shoots them with a force-smelling liquid. The rat starts chasing them, while shooting the foul-smelling fluid, when Gray uses an ice floor, which results in the rat slipping and falling before getting knocked out. Lucy notices a giant ruined tomb-like structure, and tells them that they should find shelter over there, but Natsu and Gray are busy trying to kill the rat completely, but all in vain. Finally, they end up entering the ruined tomb, where the walls are covered with pretty-looking moon emblems and spells. Lucy tells them to move carefully, but Natsu, the giant idiot, ends up jumping on the floor, which results in the floor being broken, and they all fall down. After regaining their balance, Natsu runs off to find something else, just like a stupid child, forcing Gray and Lucy to follow him. They walk towards the cliff, where they see a giant frozen structure, and inside of it, there seems to be a monster frozen inside. This shocks Gray to the core, who starts shivering, while Lucy tells him to calm down. Gray replies that the monster inside is named Deliora, the Demon of Destruction, but he has no idea how she is here. Suddenly, they hear a bunch of voices coming nearby, so they quickly hide, while two guys enter the area. One of them seems to a lanky monkey, while the other one looks like a blue cactus. Suddenly, a woman in maid uniform enters the area and informs the two that there are some intruders nearby somewhere, and that they have injured the rat, who seems to be working with them. Both the guys tells her that they need to find the intruders quickly and put them to eternal sleep before the resurrection ritual and run off outside the cave. Gray seems to be on edge as he recollects that this monster destroyed entire cities and killed millions of people, and it was only stopped when Gray's master gave her life to seal it away, and he can't let that go in vain. They all stand in front of the demon just looking at it when Natsu announces that he's going to destroy the demon on his own. This time Gray punches him away for real, telling him not to go near the demon whatsoever, as they can't risk him melting the ice and releasing the demon. Gray seems to be overwhelmed by the demon and is unable to think straight, but tells the others that they are going to camp here and wait for nightfall, as he believes that the moonlight and the presence of this monster is somehow connected. Natsu wants to go after the enemies, but he ends up sleeping on the floor, while aboard Lucy summons a harp-playing spirit, who starts playing some hardcore rap music for them, and soon all of them end up falling asleep. The night finally falls, and they are all jerked awake by the sudden shaking of earth, and they see that a mystical purple light seems to be coming through the roof of the cave and directly on the demon. Gray gets horrified and starts to panic before telling them to follow him upstairs, as they need to find the source of it. They go upstairs to see a bunch of magic circles, and they finally reach the top to find a bunch of hooded figures performing some kind of a secret magic ritual. Suddenly, Gray realizes that the pure moonlight can dispel any kind of magic, and they are trying to use that to free the monster from its icy cage. Natsu immediately wants to jump them, but Gray convinces him not to, as the two guys from earlier arrive with the maid girl, complaining about not being able to find the intruders, but decide that it is not important anymore. They are accompanied by an armored man who Gray recognizes as Leon, the second student of his master, who used to be a friend a long time ago. He has no idea why he is here and sits quietly as his underlings tell him about the villagers who put up a quest to stop their activities, so Leon simply tells them to kill all of the villagers so there is no one who can interrupt their plan. Gray is horrified at this, but Natsu has had enough and he jumps on top of the wall, screaming at them that he is the intruder and he will beat the shit out of them. They all recognize the mark on his arm as the mark of Fairy Tail, but Leon tells them to not waste any more time and to go and deal with the villagers ASAP. Natsu runs at him, but to his surprise, an even angrier Gray overtakes him and uses an ice spike magic to push everyone back, while Leon jumps up and counters with the same magic. Leon again tells his underlings to kill the villagers, and when Natsu tries to go after them, Leon uses his ice magic to freeze him in place by creating a ball around him. He tries to use the same magic on Lucy, but Gray immediately attacks him with his ice magic once more, and Liam is forced to defend by conjuring up an ice shield. This gives Happy and Lucy the chance to escape unharmed as they follow the people who went to attack the villagers. Natsu challenges Leon once again, which pisses Gray off, and he kicks Natsu off the cliff so he can stay safe, otherwise he will get caught up in the middle of their fight while in his vulnerable state and might end up getting injured. Natsu finally gets up and tries to use his fire magic to get rid of the ice around him, but sadly it's of no use, and finally he decides to simply walk with it and goes inside the jungle to find and defend the village against the attackers. Gray, on the other hand, is having his confrontation against Leon, and it turns out that long time ago, Gray ended up challenging Deliora, which resulted in their master trying to save him and sacrificing her life to seal the demon. This made Leon mad, who wanted to be better than her one day, and he kept that grudge against him till this day. He uses his icy magic fist to hit Gray, who is thrown away, but stands up once again, even through all the injuries. Leon gets pissed and creates a bunch of eagles with ice before sending it towards Gray. He immediately uses an ice wall, but Leon predicted it, and the eagles avoid the wall and curve in to hit Gray square in the body. Gray hasn't lost his spirit, however, as he jumps and creates an icy hammer, but it is immediately destroyed by Leon, who forces him to back off. Gray starts getting desperate and uses one of his strongest icy spike attacks, which forces the followers of Leon to run away, but Leon simply destroys it and tells Gray to admit defeat, as he could never beat him, and uses an icy dragon to land a lethal hit on Gray. Gray, however, hasn't lost his spirits yet and keeps getting up again and again, which pisses Leon off, and he starts landing a bunch of crazy attacks at him, while Gray doesn't even defend himself, not being able to bear the guilt of being responsible for the death of his teacher, while Leon tells him that there is only one way he can prove that he is better than his teacher, and that is by reviving this monster and defeating it once again. The situation seems to be dire for our heroes, but on the other end, Erza got the news about the 3 wizards going to this island, and she immediately hijacked a pirate's ship and started sailing towards the island, and seems to be the only hope of Natsu, Gray, and Lucy in this deadly island. That's it for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos and watch this next video on screen.